I promise you, all the hard stuff is over, and because my head's full right now, and I'm not sure if it might have been the whiskey, but could have been the gin. But I'm not going to tell you anything new, like new information, because I only grasp like 60% of what was said today. But through all these meetings, what I feel sometimes is lacking is that you agree with everybody what was said, whether it was, I should do ketone testing, and I need to implement that on my herd, and so on. But then you get home, you might try it for a week, and it just doesn't work, or like it doesn't stay part of your protocol, or you can't figure out how to fit it into your day. You're already pretty busy. So all I wanted to do is kind of leapfrog onto Chris's presentation, and it's a tiny bit different if any of you guys heard what I said on the AGM on the web. But all I wanted to do was tell a story about how genomic testing's working for us in the last couple of years, and why it's become a thing at our place. So for any of you that don't know us or me, I'm Kevin, and I work with my brother Stephen. That is the that's the dairy barn that Carol and I, we bought that farm in 2007, built the barn in 2010, and so it's a sand-bedded freestall barn with a head of parlor. We put robots in about 4.5 years ago. My brother is behind the farm, so he's back to back, and then our home farm is 2 concessions through the valley, so we're in a valley. Bringing up family and doing hockey and trying to expand for the future. Who knows what it's going to be like? So there's a bunch of things, and it's busy, it's full, and you get what you go for. And so this is where we're at so far at home. Just leapfrogging off of what Chris said, he set it up for me. There was in our identifying what was going on in our farm. We have vet meetings with our herd advisors, vet, feed nutritionists, bank, those kind of things, and usually that happens in the wintertime. And then combination of that and the direction that Jersey, Ontario has gone in the last half dozen years is that we're trying to focus a bit more on management practices and new tools. So all those things kind of come together, and here's a couple of main things that go into starting to use genomics. So one is to dial in the heifer and bull ratios. For 2 things around that is, one, in the amount of heifer inventory that we've got around, and 2, I don't want any more Jersey bull calves on the farm. From an economic standpoint, from a sort of a social license standpoint too, we'll just end it right there, because you know what, a Jersey bull calf, economically what you should do with it. But that's not a great way to go. So what's the solution to that? And we are trying to just not make any of them. And on the heifer side, there's just a diminished margin for the surplus breeding stock. I think traditionally you saw when our dollar was lower, we had export opportunities. I think the States has done a good job with sex semen, and it doesn't take much to, everybody knows how to raise a heifer now. I think at one point it was kind of a novelty. You didn't have the choice of sex semen. So it's just saturated, at least for us. I know that there's some people that can carve out heifer markets, but for us, it's just sort of saturated, and it's not really economical to have too many extra. And then in that, so if you work it back and you say, well, how many do I need? So you have to go back to your data, use your lactanet reports, and calculate your replacement rate, and you can go around that a little bit. But I think you had a ratio of, what was the ratio, 40%? 35 to 40% of your herd should be of your total heifers, like the 2 years, or just the 1 year?
I use a ratio of milking, whatever you're milking.
Yeah.
35 to 40% of that should be replacement.
Annual replacement rate, yeah. So on our herd of 100 cows, we should have about 35 heifers, not the 60 that we registered in 2021. So that was because we were on 50-50 sex semen and beef. We've since corrected that. But anyways, dial in the heifer and bull ratios, calculate replacement rate, and get what you go for. The second one is increased milk production per cow is a goal on our farm. We don't do too bad. We're over 8,000 kilos. But our goal is, so we're at about 28 kilos per cow now, and our goal is to get 30 and obviously above that because we have a barn that we're paying for, is paid for, so, and then there's 2 robots, and so they're kind of limited per cow. We kind of fluctuate between 100 and 110, 115 sometimes, and you can start seeing that it's a little bit more work above 115 in that barn. And so to keep on progressing and expanding quota in the same barn, we want to do it with more milk production. And so there's a bit of genetic catch-up by looking at our herd. And but I'm confident in this because this higher milk is possible. And using some of the networks that we've been exposed to through Jersey, Ontario, in this case, particularly the awards. So last night, a lot of awards going to Tyler, and Tyler's here. Yay! So gonna build Tyler's ego here a little bit, because so there's 2 reports side by side. One on the left is ours. One on the right is Tyler's. They're not exactly the same from the same month. This is actually our best one we've had. It was in October, and so it was like 320 milk for BCA. But the real one is milk value per cow. Somewhere in there. Well, that's okay. And then that's kilos of milk. Milk value is actually right here, around $8,000 right per cow. And then this one here, oh shoot, that is tiny. If you he's beaten me by about $1,000 per cow. So I know it's possible. From the next slide, this is kind of like one of those typical feed management slides that a guy will show up. What's the difference? Well, there's jerseys and there's a freestyle barn in both cases. Tyler's got his lights on, mine they're off. I guess that's maybe the difference. But yeah, maybe all I have to do is flick the switch on and I'll get $1,000 more per cow. But anyways, pretty similar operations. Aside from he's milking 3 times a day, I got robots that are arguably milking them 3 times a day. So there's not like a whole lot of difference, right, in the barns and potential. But so I think it's possible. So I know it's possible. Let's get a plan. So I got help, just like Chris said. We should, ask your peers. So I asked Tyler. Said, "What's going on? How you doing all this?" And he mentioned Ian Vandenberg's name. I don't know if you're all introduced to Ian online at the annual meeting. Works for Genomics. And he's just in Port Perry here. And he was probably out running today. That's why he couldn't join us today. But anyway, so he came on the farm. We had a meeting about 3 years ago. And we hashed it all out. And we got on a plan. Number 1, we used Ian's help to sort herd into the top and the bottom for sexed Jersey and beef semen. And to use and create a mating file, so we can tell who we're gonna. I can easily, when I go to breed a cow, I can easily just hit the button on the file, cow 386, beef or dairy, and it's got to be easy for me. Okay, so and then it also through that I can also use that sorting process to weed out and cull animals. But what data do you use? So this one here is that parental average table that he used online and explained very well. But so is parental average good enough to use to split your herd? And in this case, he lined up my genomic heifers, and by the parental average of net merit, top to bottom there, and then picked up here. So those are the top ones. Those are the bottom ones on parental average. But then he compared that to the genomic net merit value. And so in this green, yeah, that was correct. We're gonna, she's gonna be in our Jersey, we're gonna breed her Jersey. This one here is kind of marginal, but these two here, they, in this case, would have been bred to Jersey, but in this case, using genomic values, they actually indeed shouldn't have been. So there is a bit more accuracy. So we are using genomic data. Next in the plan, number 2, use Ian's help to create an up-to-date bull sort of suitable bull choices that are balanced, available, sexed, and avoid inbreeding in haplotypes. I was finding it hard to take 5 different guys that come into the barn for meetings from all the different genetic companies and put them on a level playing field and accurately pick out bulls. And it was just time consuming. I don't have that much time, or I have less and less time, so I just want it to make nice and easy. So I made Ian do all the work, and so he gives me a bull sort, which looks like, oh, that's indeed what the file that says whether. So these are the females on the left side, those are the cows. So this is actually heifers, and it just says. So if 1022 is in heat, I just go across. Oh, she's a beef, so I breed a beef. Nice and easy. And then, so this next one is a bull sort, and I know it's going to be small on this slide, but essentially he just gives me an Excel sheet. He's got some minimum values to sort from based on net merit, milk, components, DPR, and then selecting against some of the haplotypes that we were worried about, and inbreeding. So he'll create a list from all companies, not just GenX or CMX or Select, and then by bull code, and then I can just call up my guys and see if they're available sexed. So are they available, are they sexed? And then what's the price? So I can also do a little shopping, because if the number 1 guy is like $90 and I can get a pretty comparable one for $60, then I'll go with a $60 one a little bit. Back to this, the plan. So number 3, we're going to pull hair and submit genomic samples on all heifers. And there's Grace, my daughter, and she's helping me. So it's a nice little. They're like, so this is where the rubber hits the road. This, like, I had a head block about, like, how do I actually do the sampling and how do I get them mailed off? Like, I want to do it, but how do people do it? So it's just a box of these cards there. They're just an envelope that opens up. There's a sticky on there, and once you've done a few tail hair pullings, it comes out pretty easily, and you stick it on there, throw the number of the calf, and then because for whatever reason, I think Ian feels sorry for me because I don't know how to use the mailbox, but he comes up every 3 months or so, and it's kind of like a date where he's like, well, it's going to happen, so either I have them already done for him, or at least we do them when he's there. So it gets done, because otherwise it just get kicked down the road, and it wouldn't happen on my farm. And then, so the 4th part of the plan is verify that matings are improving the genetic potential at a young age. So just like it's just already been said, like you can get at 3 weeks of age or however early you get the genetic data back, you've got the same information as it would be after a full lactation, and it's as reliable. So we can monitor our breeding program like right away. So are we actually making progress? So are we making progress at home? I guess go through this. You've already seen that. This is one of the Neogen dashboard links, and this is on net merit, the progress from when we started to where we are here. The green, the dark one is actually the all herds trend. So they started off good, and then they're increasing at a pretty linear rate. And obviously we have not as many data, so our curve is a little wonky, but we kind of woo, and then we got pretty good here. And I can't explain this, but I would just forget about that. It looks like we're improving, right? So we'll go with that.
COVID related.
Yeah. Oh yeah, COVID. Yeah, COVID excuse. Yeah. So do the top genetics equal top performance? So this was a slide that Ian showed at the annual meeting. So just because we're going for a net merit or ProDol or index, does that really mean we're going to get more milk out of our cows? And this one here, it kind of says, yeah, you do. So he just took our 26 first lactation cows that have had genomic tests, and he just ranked them top and bottom. So here you can see that the top 50% based on genomic net merit actually milk 29.2 versus the bottom 50 at 27.4. So therefore, that is, to me, good enough to say chasing for that genomic predictor is going to end up with more milk. And then so you could do that with not just milk, but all the other criteria if you wanted to see if you've got progress. One thing, so you may have heard if you were at the awards banquet last night, we had a couple of Marsons that were mentioned, and Tyler had a Marson that was mentioned for top milk, and he was an extreme top milk bull. I used him prior to Ian's advice, and he is like a -2 on DPR, which means theoretically we should be like more than a month longer to get them in calf. So when you breed for extremes like that, you might not know that you're actually giving up a fair bit on some other traits. So that's where I needed help. I couldn't keep track of all that stuff, so I got help, and this is the plan that we're on. So in summary, the benefits of genomics is it's an accurate method of sorting herd, the parentage verification. I'm no different than what they're finding. I thought we wouldn't have too many parentage issues. Rachel at Jersey Canada, where every time I submit, we're always like 10 or 20%. We usually have 1 or 2 that we have to deal with. And that's important because if you don't identify that you've got a haplotype and then you breed a bull with that haplotype, well, then you're going to increase your chances of getting a poor outcome. And the verifying of the matings, performance quicker, like I just explained. The other thing that's pretty exciting and it kind of goes along with this genomic testing is the beef on dairy. And so we are breeding 70% of our our breedings are 70% on beef. So we use Angus and 30% on sexed Jersey. And those 30% are going on the last generation that was the top 30% of their cohort as well. So I think we're really speeding up our genetic progress and limiting our genetic diversity. So I was really pumped coming in today and then listening to Christine, I'm like, oh, it's more complicated than just going for the best, isn't it? Anyways, so avoid low value of dairy bulls and potential for increased revenue for the Angus bulls. I'm sure lots of you put up your hand, said you're breeding Angus or breeding to beef. And it's not a matter of trying to find a market for them. You actually have a list of people that are wanting them. So that's a nice position. And then that's keeping our heifer pens, our replacement pens, less full, which has a big benefit because last year, we had a fair bit of pneumonia, and each one of those cases can cost you like $1,500 or pretty much destroy an animal. So to avoid that, we have a lot less animals in our heifer pens this year. Yeah, I explained that. And this is how my brain works. I'm not as professional in the Excel sheets, but I just thought, hey, economically, what would happen if you just compared a breeding program of traditional conventional semen without genomic testing to what we're doing now. So genomic testing, all the females, breeding 70% to a beef bull and 30% to the top sexed Jersey bulls. What would it look like if you could compare those two? Using cost, $45 a test for the genomic test, and then Jersey Canada charges you $5 to process them, so let's say $50. Depends on what you're breeding, your services per conception. But so for me, I figure like 130 a milking cow breedings, 45 heifer breedings, 170 breedings in total, 175 animals to breed, times on this one is 2.5 services per conception. And so that gets up to, you can follow along. Jersey, we spend $5,906 on Jersey sex semen. and 3,000 on the beef. Yeah, so and if you add in this $45 is $22,000, so $2,200.50. Actually, this one here goes along with this line. I guess there's benefits to Excel. Ultimately, I'd like you to just focus on these two values here. So this one here is two services per conception with beef and sexed Jersey with a $45 test. My total cost of breeding at that is $9,400. This one here is traditional at 2% or 2 services per conception at $30 conventional, 350 breedings, gets you out at $10,500. My point here, and it depends on how much you're going to pay for sex semen and all that, but by being able to take advantage of lower cost beef semen, you can pay for the genomic test pretty easily. So that's what I had to figure out in my head, and I think we're actually lower cost of our breeding program with the genomic test.
And that doesn't take into account the value of your calves?
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, just from a cash flow, let's say all the rest isn't improving. That's, it's not going to make it that much difference. It's not like your fertilizer bill this year. So.
How many heifers do you have now? Like, what's your ratio now? You said 60.
Yeah.
You had 60. You registered 60 before.
Off the top of my head, I think we're probably like 100, 105. It's ridiculous. It's stupid, right? We're not through our plan yet. 6 weeks ago, I enrolled in dairy comp, so we had the T4C on the robots, but there's limitations to how much data you could get out of that. So I enrolled in dairy comp, and I made myself a report. One of the first reports we made was the predicted pregnancies by month, split into beef and Jersey, and we're a lot more in line with aiming for about 45 heifers born. And then on our farm, some calves die, so let's back that down to like 40. And then maybe some don't get bred. So I think I actually looked at that number and I thought, am I going to be okay? But yeah, I think so. Our 2022 calvings are going to be a lot more in line with what the plan should be. So with that, I thanks everybody, and if you have any questions, look me up or whatever.
Quick one, Kevin. What's the confirmation on the bulls you're using? What's the just final class memory? I don't know.
Type classification?
I know you're looking at bigger numbers, but I'm just curious to know what confirmation is, and it's a little early to know if that's affected. The look of your herd. Maybe that's not a very. But
So when Randy's beetling down Highway 7 like $150, would he be better off to slow down for all the black vehicles or use his radar detector and predict when the police? So here's, and I haven't cooked this idea all the way, but my point on the classification a little bit is that I think longevity is a better number. It's an actual number. And I grew up with the type classification, did a bit of judging, and I still haven't got my head around how we can visualize an animal and figure out that, or judge that she's going to last longer than another one. Because I think there's a little bit, and all the data will show you that cattle that are classified higher last longer, right? I emailed Holstein Canada, got that answer. They have higher classification, they linearly positive relationship with lifetime milk. But I think there's some selection pressure there that because she's 87 points, she gets to stay around for a little longer. So I'm not sure that our visual, so I haven't been classifying for a couple of years. I've put that money into towards health testing. So what are they? I should quantify that I'm not looking to not have any type in the herd. I am looking for higher on the type indexes of what Ian provides me, but that's
Well,
just kind of a
figures
safety.
Are in those proofs, so they will have type. I'm just curious to know what.
Yeah.
The bulls you ended up selecting, what would their conformation range be, low to high?
No idea.
Look.
Are you going to the DX?
Like a final classification on a bull?
Yeah.
Like looking at the bull
Like, no,
to
not
decide.
looking at the
Oh,
bull, looking at the proofs.
No, like
what's their proof?
Plus 4, plus 5.
Oh,
10, minus
sorry.
15.
No, I don't know. There's like a million numbers on those sheets. I don't have time to memorize them all. They're set at a minimum value, and I just trust that that's good enough. Why didn't you ask what the foot angle was, or what the stature, like what any of them really?
Trying to make it easy.
Okay, yeah. Well, so what question are you actually asking? Like our balance on type and production?
I'm just curious what, like, I mean, you had a list of 10 bulls probably to pick from there, right?
Yeah,
And you didn't
15 or
look at-
20.
I'm just, so you.
That's
look
like
at
the part
you look at
that's
the net merit dollars.
the part that you can't
I'm
see.
not challenging. you,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just-
and I get it. I'm getting a little
curiosity.
excited. And like I said, all this stuff is about 60% cooked because, then some kid needs to go to hockey and I lose focus. But in here, that's where the minimum criteria are. So it's not like we're going to have minus 10 bulls in there. So they're all kind of it's kind of a unglorious way of breeding that you just kind of go for. You're not really going for the high. You're going for just balance positive across the board and trying to protect yourself from haplotypes and inbreeding. So, yeah. Sorry about the rant about classification.
So you'll still have to have a classifier in when you.
Yep. I always look forward to that day. I like when they did traditionally. I like talking to the guys about cows. I just, frankly, Yoni's, leukosis, BVD, those kind of things should be your first one that you're testing for. And it boggles my mind that people wouldn't test that first before classifying. So we are. That's why we're still on tests on dairy comp or on Lactanet. We're still using that, and then we're annually surveying our health status. So, yeah. Go on.
You're not going JX at all, or you're not?
There has been a few that slipped in. Some of the higher brackets. There was one that I felt that it was good enough that I went with them. And so you think it's at 50%, but I thought it was 0. That I've got a few registered that they hammer that, but I'm not that worried. It's not a significant portion of our herd, but yeah.
As you get your inventory under control, and then the milk board throws a few incentive days at your way, is that how are you going to sort of manage that?
Yeah, you got to buffer yourself. Same, because crap happens, right? You may have a string of pneumonia, so you got to buffer yourself. But I think 35 is actually quite high because we were like 15 on 12. It was either 12 or 15 on involuntary culls, and then there was 22 that were domestic milk sales. So
You have
we
some
can,
control still.
yeah. I think we have control on cattle numbers still.